Hello, and welcome to the world of Trillium Domes. My name is Johnny Bales, and I'm happy to be your guide for all things dome related. I've been building and designing geodesic domes and zomes for a decade now, and I've done my best to bring together the simplest, most affordable, and most beautiful dome building techniques without the need for confusing math equations, esoteric principles, or proprietary hardware. Kind of blows my mind how confusing it can be to find straightforward step-by-step information about these incredible structures. So my mission with Trillium Domes has been to make dome building as accessible and clear-cut as possible. I want to give you the information that I wish that I had had when I got started. This video will be a companion to the Trillium Domes Quick Start Guide. This guide can be found on our website, trilliumdomes.com, as well as a downloadable PDF that you can receive by signing up for our email list. The goal of this guide is to give you a general overview of the types of structures that are possible and to get you headed in the right direction. You'll find more specific information in our build plans, guides, FAQ, blog, and newsletter. Feel free to skip ahead to the different sections of this video. Subjects we will touch on in this video: why build a geodesic structure in the first place? The Trillium Domes Quick Start Flowchart. The aesthetic and practical differences between our different design types. Common uses for our dome and zome designs. Should you go full DIY, use a Trillium kit, or hire out for a full commission build? A brief description of the most common uses for our designs, and of course where you can find further resources and information. So to begin, you may ask yourself, why a dome or a zome? It's a fantastic question. Now, I'm not a purist. I don't believe that geodesic structures are the best choice for every situation, but for the type of structures we build, greenhouses, saunas, community spaces, small to medium-sized residences, they're amazing for so many reasons. I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds here, but there are three main reasons to choose a geodesic structure: aesthetics, resilience, and efficiency, and they all tie together quite nicely. The first aspect that a would-be dome builder may find appealing is the way that these structures look, or how it may make you feel. Most people find themselves drawn to and captivated by the form of domes and zomes. It's a bit hard to describe, and while pictures and videos do an okay job at conveying the interesting geometry, it's kind of hard to convey the sense of comfort or wonder that can arise from being inside a dome or seeing a zome nestled in the woods. My theory is that geodesic structures are simply more in line with the forms that we find in nature. They're based on geometry that is similar to what we've been surrounded by for most of our evolution as a species. In other words, they're biomimetic, forming shapes that we're used to. And not to say that conventional buildings are bad, but rarely do they evoke the same sense. It may be because they're more commonplace, or it may be because there's not as many examples in nature of rectangles and right angles. All I know is that the blending of art and function is initially what drew me in, and I think that's a perfectly good place to start. What's really cool is that the same aspects that tie geodesic structures to nature by way of their beauty also contribute to their other inherent benefits. The next of which I'd say is their incredible structural resilience. A dome or a zome is basically the shape of an arch, but iterated multiple times around a central point. So instead of being effective across one plane, the framework disperses all that tension and compression down many paths in all directions. Paul Kasabian has a really informative video on YouTube explaining how this works, but basically it creates an interconnected network of support, allowing each framing member to be smaller and lighter. This also creates redundancy, so that an individual failure won't necessarily lead to a whole system failure. So, as if in concert, geodesic structures taper consistently like a sand dune or a snowdrift. This redirects the flow of extreme winds around their aerodynamic shape, not opposing them directly like many conventional buildings. Sticking to the theme, we come across other tapered forms in nature. Dorsal fins, pine cones, seashells. These also have something else in common with each other, along with our domes and zomes: material efficiency. The natural world and its constituent parts have been shaped by the laws of nature, as well as the necessity of efficiency. Why are so many natural forms rounded or tapered? The short answer is that it simply requires less material to encompass a similar amount of volume compared to a box shape. A geodesic structure can have as much as 50% less surface area per unit of volume versus a box. This earns them the status of the lightest and most efficient structures known to man. Now, it's a common refrain that I hear a lot. Domes are inefficient. You're cutting triangles out of square material. Believe me, I could write a whole video just on this subject alone, and I probably will. But for the sake of brevity, consider our starting point. If a dome structure has 50% less surface area than a box with the same amount of volume, you'd have to have a 50% waste factor in your dome project to even approach using the same amount of material that would go into a 100% efficient box. And that's not accounting for the fact that having 50% less surface area increases the efficiency of heating and cooling a building by a massive degree. I've been a residential carpenter for 10 years now, and I've seen a lot of waste with conventional buildings. At the end of the day, all building projects can produce excessive waste if you don't think with efficiency in mind. Not only do we design our structures and plans with efficiency in mind, but by starting with a dome shape, we already have a huge head start in terms of reducing the amount of materials used. So that's why you might build a geodesic structure, but once you decide, where do you begin? I've written up this nice little flowchart to get the juices, well, flowing. Basically, it starts by asking if you have a vision for your space. If you don't, you can follow the chart to some places to get both inspiration and information. Good places for inspiration are the build page on our website where you can see people who have built from our plans. You can also see a great mix of projects from our designs on our social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and our full build videos on our Trillium Domes YouTube channel. Good places to get more information about domes is the frequently asked questions page on our website, the Trillium Domes blog, the Trillium Domes Builder's Method PDF, which is a really detailed document that comes with all of our plans. And of course, you can always go to our contact page if you have an unanswered question. I'm confident that once you have explored these options, you will begin to have an idea of what your dream dome or zome could look like. If at any point in the process you feel unsure of which way to go, you can always fall back on these resources. When you're feeling ready to make the next step of turning your dreams into a reality, you should decide if you want to build a dome, a zome, or one of our hybrid designs. I'll briefly talk a little about their pros and cons, and I will be doing a deeper dive into this subject in the future. The main things we're considering are our aesthetic preference and the relative ease of achieving our goal. So geodesic domes are the quintessential class of structures popularized by Buckminster Fuller. They're a very tried and true design, and they're based on very stable geometry. Classic domes are able to form large structures with few unique faces. This means more repeatable parts. They also have a consistent angle between the faces. That's what gives them their overall concentric shape and translates to a single bevel angle. So for fully beveled frame builds, domes are the easiest. However, the concentric panel arrangement of the hexagons and pentagons can pose a challenge when sealing and roofing a dome versus a zome. Because panels don't have a fixed up and down orientation, it leads to more forethought required to prefabricating flashing details in a bit more of a nuanced touch when applying roofing materials. That being said, it's totally possible to properly roof a dome or seal a dome greenhouse. We do it all the time. Also, because domes are typically built with a beveled frame, it requires a few more complicated cuts and jigs than a non-beveled zome, for example. Zomes are a more modern take on the classic dome and do pose some significant advantages. The non-beveled method that I recommend everyone use, in my opinion, is the easiest way to build a geodesic structure, period. Zomes are comprised of rhombi, which are a type of uniform parallelogram. All this to say, in a non-beveled zome, each type of panel can be made of identical struts and needs no compound cuts or jigs. This speeds up the build process and eliminates a significant amount of complexity. Another big advantage is the consistent up-down orientation of the zome panels. This allows for easy prefabrication and planning of flashing details, as well as a much more straightforward roofing application. The tapered shape also allows for a roof line that collects little to no snowfall, which is nice. The biggest downside of zomes present themselves when approaching a beveled frame build. Because of the many different panel types and inconsistent taper across the structure, a beveled frame zome is quite complicated, resulting in many unique struts and a small margin of error. Having done both methods myself, my advice is to avoid beveled frame zomes. It's not really worth it. However, it is still achievable through our plans, should you decide to pursue it. Now, our Horizon Dome designs offer a completely unique and highly customizable structure that blends the aesthetics of domes and zomes, and also introduces some interesting elements. Like the zome, the non-beveled method is highly recommended and simplifies the process of building. There's a little bit more flexibility with regard to the openings, awnings, and elliptical footprint. These optional elements do add potential complexity because you're moving away from the highly repeatable shapes of the domes and zomes. But we do make sure to include detailed drawings of all those elements in our plans. At the end of the day, the easiest geodesic structure to build is a non-beveled zome, followed by a beveled frame dome. Once you've decided on your Trillium Domes design and its use, it's time for you to decide your level of involvement with the project. Our designs are created with the DIYer in mind. We take care of all the crazy math, materials lists, and step-by-step processes. From there, you can participate as much as you want. From a full DIY build to assembling one of our kits to hiring out for a full commission build. If you choose to build a Trillium Dome yourself from our plans, you'll find yourself in really good company. We have facilitated hundreds of successful projects from all over the world. Greenhouses, cabins, community spaces, and more. Between our full build videos, online resources, and the build plans themselves, even complete novices are equipped to build the dome or zome of their dreams. And of course, we're always here to answer your questions should you need some help along the way. By building with our plans, you can save a ton of money and create an absolutely stunning space with your own hands. We're going to be rolling out Trillium kits in the fall of 2024, where you're going to be able to order your favorite Trillium Domes design pre-cut, packaged, and sent to your door. There'll be a decent amount of assembly to do, but we will have removed most of the complicated bits for you. It'll largely be screwing struts together and assembling the dome, which is the funnest part. A Trillium kit will save a lot of money on the labor costs of a full build while leaving the woodworking to us. However, many people simply just don't have the time or resources to spend on building or assembling their own Trillium Dome space. In that case, you can request a quote for a commission build on your site to your specifications. If Trillium Domes doesn't have the capacity, we can help you find someone. The Trillium Domes Builders Collective is a growing association of vetted independent contractors with prior dome building experience who are familiar with our system. You can also hire a local carpenter or woodworker to follow our plans and build you one of our amazing designs. A lot of people have done that successfully. Now I'll get into a little bit more detail on the most common uses for our designs: cabins, short-term rentals, greenhouses, community spaces, and saunas. All the Trillium Domes designs can be used as a habitable or otherwise human-occupied space. The orientation of the roof, clear sections, skylights, and windows can all be placed where they best fit for you, regardless of the plan. All our designs can be built with deep frames that can hold as much of an insulation cavity as you need for your project. A solid roof or a PVC cover is generally used for cabins, short-term rentals, or glamping structures. The most common assembly is a roof deck, which is plywood, OSB, or tongue and groove boards fastened to the frame. Then a roofing underlayment is applied from the bottom up, drying in the space, and a roofing material is applied over that. Pretty much works like a normal roof. Common roofing materials are asphalt shingles, aluminum shakes, sheet metal, and TPO, but those are by no means the only options. Another common option is heavy-duty PVC fabric. These can come pre-made to fit your structure or be DIY'd very inexpensively. Regarding living spaces or short-term rentals, the interior of the domes can be easily made as efficient as they are beautiful. Smaller domes usually employ lofted beds that can nest kitchens, bathrooms, and closets, while bigger domes can take advantage of the increased volume to partition rooms with interior walls. The internet abounds with inspiration as well. Many yurt floor plans can be repurposed for domes and zones. But feel free to get in touch with us if you need help with your design. We'll be adding a lot more floor plans to our website soon. All our designs can also be a great choice for greenhouse, pool cover, or covered patio space. These are typically the simple and most affordable structures to build. In general, most of the operating principles around conventional greenhouses can be directly translated to their dome-shaped counterparts. Great places to find best practices surrounding greenhouse use in your climate would be local plant nurseries and gardening clubs or forums. The most affordable and commonly used cover material for these types of structures is woven polyfilm. You'll want to find UV-coated industrial-grade material. It's incredibly strong and long-lasting while being affordable. Other options would be multi-wall and solid clear polycarbonate. You can also cover only part of the structure with the transparent material, roofing the rest, or even covering the whole dome with a heavy-duty shade fabric to create a ventilated space. An optional vented cupola can be added to further increase the airflow. The foundations for these types of structures can be simple gravel pads, pavers, concrete, or simply anchored to the earth like a shed. Domes and zomes are such a great choice for communal spaces. They're wide open, captivating, and inviting. Community spaces really can be accomplished with any material. They can be greenhouses, they can have conventional roofs, they can be half open to the elements. It's all about what you want to achieve with your project. Domes are perhaps not the first design choice an aspiring sauna builder is likely to come across. Many traditional builds favor a box shape. However, there are some very interesting points to consider, practical and aesthetic. We've found that if you add an interior wall to a dome, you highlight all the benefits of the dome shape while eliminating any of the downsides with regard to a sauna. On the entry side of the interior wall, you can have a changing room, shower, cold plunge tub, etc. This also allows for you to build benches all the way up to the ceiling, as in a traditional sauna. A dome shape generally has about 30 to 50% less surface area per unit of volume versus a box, so a dome sauna doesn't have to work as hard to heat up the same amount of air or to keep it hot. The tapered shape of the top also effectively lowers the average height of the sauna ceiling, keeping more hot air down in the space where people are sitting. I think that about wraps up the basic info that I wish that I would have had when I started. If you have other questions, definitely check out those aforementioned resources, and of course you can always send me an email at trilliumdomes.com/contact. Definitely check out our full build videos on YouTube because we walk through the full build processes of different projects so you can really get an idea of what it looks like. Thanks for sticking with me and letting me help you along your dome journey. I can't wait to see what you build.